In addition to, seeing their caregivers being reliable and loving, the adult also develops a sense of self-worth and a sense of self-love, because they were raised, in a home where the adults were reliable and loving. They're likely to see others in the same way. When caregivers are available, responsive, and reliable, children also develop a sense of security. When children do not develop a sense of security, they tend to question their self worth, if they're worthy of love. They question, their self esteem. They question if anybody can meet their needs. They end up with trust issues, and then they end up in the isolation phase of development. Intimacy is a key developmental task for emerging adults. Intimacy contributes to relational and psychological tools for emerging adults to develop intimacy. Parenting styles also play a major role in intimacy versus isolation. And there are three types of parenting styles that I came across during my research. The first one is authoritative parents who are high on control and demandingness, as well as on warmth and responsiveness, maintain a fine balance of both warmth and strictness while parenting. And the other type was authoritarian parents who were extremely restrictive and controlling of their children. They require strict obedience and were low on nurturing. The last type of parenting style that I came across is permissive parents who, while they were responsive to their children's needs, they allow them to make their own decisions about activities, and they also set few limits and made few demands of their children. Authoritative parenting has consistently been shown to be the most beneficial type of parenting. That type of parenting actually, sets individual up for positive, intimate relationships with others. Intimacy is not the only quality of a romantic couple, but it's also potential within an individual. So, the individual has to learn to love themselves, trust themselves, be intimate with themselves, and not be afraid to be who they are while also giving themselves to another person. There are three elements of intimacy that I came across: the willingness to make a commitment to another person, the ability to share at deep personal levels, and the capacity to communicate inner thoughts and feelings. During my research, I found that the responsibility of intimacy mainly falls on the female, because the female kind of notices when things are off track, or when there's an issue with the relationship. Females pay close attention to changes in their spouse, and they bring them up to address them. The male kind of is behind the scenes and doesn't really address the differences that are being seen. A limitation discussed during my interview with my grandmother was her maturity level. So she said she understood the concept of relationships and love, but she failed to be mature enough to handle the complications that came along with being intimate with someone. Being in a relationship with somebody is more than just phone calls and text messages every day. It's another job. So mentally, if you're not prepared for that and you don't know how to handle that, then ultimately you'll end up in the isolation phase. Also, my grandmother was never married. My great grandmother would have liked her to be married, but she was not. My grandmother also had a fear of being disappointed by an individual and a fear of rejection. My grandfather really, I guess, did a number on her when he, treated her the way he did, and how he just disappeared without saying a word. I guess you can say that there hasn't been any closure from that situation. So she's been in relationships after him, but they haven't worked out because, she doesn't open up fully to her spouse, or she doesn't want to deal with, the what ifs in a relationship because she's been through that before. Another limitation is, like I said earlier, my grandmother was raised in a really good household. They didn't really have issues, and they didn't argue, and my grandfather didn't treat my grandmother bad. So it's hard for her to say how she ended up in the relationship that she ended up, where the men, didn't do their job, or where they, like my grandfather left her, didn't take care of responsibilities. And these are my references. I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation. And thank you for watching or listening.